Welcome back to Spinning the Yarn here on Euphoria. My name is Taylor Navarro. I use she, her pronouns. I am a Latina tanned woman with long, wavy, dark hair, glasses, and today I'm actually wearing a black and white striped top, but my handmade for today, I didn't actually make. So this scarf here that I'm wearing, I have had this since 2012, I believe. And when I received this, I was visiting my grandmother in Florida, and she gave it to me because one of her neighbors, who was 102 at the time, made matching scarves for me and my sister in honor of us visiting. And so this is very old and precious to me. It is very well worn. I wear it every single winter. And I thought, instead of re-wearing something that I've made, I would wear this and show this off today. So like I said, we are here for spinning the yarn. What is spinning the yarn? Spinning the yarn is an idiom. It refers to telling tales with friends. And I do have a friend with me here today. However, we also have a friend in the form of our sponsor. So this season is sponsored by Spinning the Yarn. Spinning the Yarn is sponsored by Brambleheart Games, the creators of Fae Earth. They are crowdfunding for Hidden Folk of the Feywild, a new bestiary for D&D 5e, featuring obscure Fae, magical creatures based in Europe, and magical creatures based on European folklore. If she could read, that would be really, really helpful. I can. So each creature has a unique stat block, spells, and a description of the real lore that inspired it. So make sure you check the crowdfunder at the link below. And throughout the show, you will see us throwing a command in chat so you can go because it is crowdfunding right now. Okay, that is that. And then you might be wondering, Taylor, what are you working on today? I'm making a little watch my crochet hook fall onto the floor. I'm making look a little skull square thing. It's going to be part of a top eventually. But no one really cares about what I'm working on. We want to know who my guest is and what they're doing. So I'm going to switch us over. Hello, my wonderful guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, hello everybody. I am your androgynous android late night DJ, Nathan Blades, tabletop RPG designer, streamer, voice actor, and general internet ne'er-do-well. Thank you for having me on this evening to go and do some hobby hangouting. What I'm going to do today, I'm working on a little bit of miniature painting. I have a handful of projects that are like generally up in the air. I never like work and finish one thing at a time. So currently, unfortunately, the webcam I'm using for face is not very good for depth of field, so it's going to be very blurry. But you're going to have to believe me that I am painting it as a halfling bard.
Oh, wow!
I'll bring closer to the camera, and it's going to lose focus, but you can kind of see the detail in it a bit more. There's a little hurdy-gurdy, which is such a cool bardic instrument. You don't kind of see that thing on miniatures.
That's so cool.
And then beyond that, I off-air am running a campaign of Swords of the Serpentine for Friends, which is a gumshoe system game. It's a mystery kind of thing, but with swashbuckling theming. So I, for my off-air campaigns, paint miniatures for all of my players. So when we do action scenes, people can tell where they are. And I've kind of base-colored them. So, you can tell who's who on the map, but it means that since we do it every 2 weeks, I kind of like paint them a little more each time. So they're a bit more complete each time I show up at a game. So yeah, we're just going to be working on some of those, finishing some stuff off while we chat about tabletop RPGs and gossip and just kiki.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so you said something that I'm going immediately off script. That's how you know that this is going to be a good episode.
Nice.
So you said you've got you're working on multiple things at once. Okay. If you had to guess, how many works in progress or whips do you think that you have?
In terms of because this part of it is like campaign painting, it's all for the same project, but I kind of work on a mini by mini basis. I can't batch paint.
Yeah.
So the people who do like a Warhammer armies obviously will paint 20 things the same way at the same time, but these are all individual characters, so they're their own process. So I am currently spinning in the ballpark of 7-8 plates. But each of those can be worked on a little bit at a time, and they share a color scheme. If I wasn't doing that, I generally have about 3 miniatures on the go at the same time, to avoid
That's
just
not
getting bored.
terrible.
Yeah, it's a reasonable balance. I'm not drowning myself in it. Because I
So
have to. I
you're doing
prefer
better than
picking
I
the.
am. You're
Oh,
doing
sure, yeah,
way
yeah.
better than I am. So like, good for you, honestly.
Are you much more of the I am going to take on 5 billion craft
It's
projects at once?
I the thing is, I tend to get really bored.
Hmm.
And then, I have an idea, and I'm like, I'm gonna start something new. So if I list off all of my current whips, so we've
Hmm.
got this one that I started yesterday, and that I'm working on today. This skull is gonna be a skull kind of mesh top, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then I have another one on my desk, which is this is like a cowl, so
Okay. Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
a short infinity scarf. And I haven't blocked it, so it looks really weird, like a little sunflower to go
Hmm.
on it
Hmm.
and stuff. So I need to just sew it all together.
Hmm.
And you're gonna notice that this is a theme. So that's
You'll do all
cute.
the components, but the actual finishing process is one that takes a little longer
I
to.
just want to crochet. I don't want to put it together. So there's a
Hmm.
scarf for my husband that is fully knitted. I just need to weave in the ends, so it's not done.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's that. I'm just making a bunch of crochet roses with scrap yarn, and I'm going to make a mesh bag and sew all of the roses on so you can't see the mesh. So it's going to
Hmm.
be like a bag of flowers. So that's for.
Hmm.
I have in my chest of shame, where I hide all of my crafting projects.
What a thing to call it.
It's where my sewing machine lives, because that has defeated me, and I feel shame, and where all of my other things live.
Sure. Yes.
Um, so I have a shawl that's not finished, a basket that's not finished. So that takes
Hmm.
us to six. Um, and then some Christmas presents from last year for my husband and my sister. So they get one each, which brings us up to eight. Where I
Hmm.
ironed on the letters and they started falling off. So I was going to sew them on. And then I started sewing them on, but I never finished sewing them on.
Oh
So that brings
no.
us to eight. And on top of my chest of shame is
Hmm.
my mending pile, because I have three pillows that have all split apart at the seams, that I started fixing and then never finished. So that brings us up to about 10 things in
Hmm.
within arm's reach of me that I
Hmm.
have not completed.
I mean, yes, that is a lot of things, and I
It's a lot of
definitely
things.
empathize in that there are definitely some projects that are like non-miniature related. Like I sew also, not
Oh,
very often.
nice.
I've
Mm-hmm.
mostly been doing it for like cosplays. The
Mm-hmm.
person who taught me to sew, who's one of my good friends, Tab Kimpton, he has been cosplay tailoring for a decade, at least a decade when I initially knew him. So
Oh,
he's been at it a lot
wow.
longer. So learning to sew via him, and then when we go to conventions and work conventions together, there'll
Mm-hmm.
be times where we'll work on cosplays in tandem.
Oh, that's
Not
nice.
often, they used to be matching, not necessarily these days, but yeah, yeah, yeah. So that skill was great, and I'm like, well, I'm built like a human noodle, so the ability to make my own clothes would be really nice. Especially as we kind of continue to go through different like aesthetic eras. I've
Yes.
rediscovered the appeal of like urban dandy as a look. It's something I've always enjoyed. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
like me and you've recently watched like the Met Gala that happened a couple weeks ago, which
Oh
was
my
specifically
goodness.
about the history of black tailoring, and I was like,
Yeah,
damn, that used to be me. I could get back into that. I could return to that life.
you could and you should. Like,
Yes. So, but obviously, buying clothes off the rack when you're very tall or just have any kind of non-standard body type, it's not going to fit
mm-hmm.
you. My arms and legs are very very long, so I have to do like you know lots of those kind of alterations.
Yeah.
And just being able to just sew a shirt or a pair of trousers myself would really open things up in terms of what is available to me.
Oh,
But that's a
100%.
hard project to take. That's a very difficult trousers in particular are very difficult sewing projects. So
I've I've
mm,
sewn a dress before,
mhm,
and that was the hardest thing ever. So the reason that I got a sewing machine in the first place is because
mhm,
I have two children, and my oldest had started school, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna win theme days. Like
Hmm.
that was the thing that I wanted to do, and I did a really good job on the first year. I just made dress.
Sure.
Just like I don't know if you've ever seen the ABCs of D&D. It's like a kid's book.
Oh, sure. Hmm.
But in it, there's like a girl in a pink dress with homemade elf ears,
Hmm.
who kind of looks similar enough to my daughter, and she's like, I want to be that one. So I
Hmm.
made just a plain pink dress that matched it, and I was really proud of it. It fell apart after that day, and I was like, and then my sewing
No.
machine kept jamming, and I was like, okay, I think I'm just gonna stick with knitting and crochet. However,
Hmm.
fast forward to this year, so it's been like 4 years since I made that dress. Um,
Hmm.
we had another theme day, ancient Egyptian theme day. Um,
Very common.
and I won. I mean, my daughter won, but I won because I made it the the ancient Egyptian day.
Hmm.
Or we got the dress on Vinted, we got the sandals online. Like she went as the ancient Egyptian goddess Isis. But
Oh, sure. Yes. Hmm.
what we did together is we made like the cow horns and sun disk headdress with paper mache.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it was sick. It was so cool. Like, and she was the only one because they gave us like 11 days notice. So
Oh, hey.
everyone was like ordering stuff off Amazon Prime, and I was like, bear with me. I know that you like to
Hmm.
look different. Just
Hmm.
just trust in the vision. And she did, and she had a great time because she loves arts and crafts as well. And like, so I'm like, I could get back into this cosplay, like learning to sew stuff, because then next
Hmm.
time I could be even better. Um, it's just about time, I guess.
Yes, 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 yes. I generally will have like a big thing I want to cosplay at a time.
Yeah.
So a couple years ago it was Shadow Sae from Persona 5.
Mm-hmm.
Uh backless dress. I have never worn anything that I've dragged for cosplay a couple times, but I've
Mm-hmm.
never worn anything that kind of like
If it helps,
body
neither have
confident
I.
based, you
Yeah.
know. I was trying to think of the right word. Like there's a big thigh slit in it, there's a garter involved, it was a lot.
Ooh.
But like sewing that dress, really exciting to do because I learned a lot about kind of that style of clothier, like sewist working.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I went as a very obscure, like Korean RPG character, De Freyshoots, who's this big smoke monster with a gigantic gun.
Ooh,
Do
that
I know
sounds like my
anything
kind of
about
character.
guns? Absolutely not. Did I make the gun myself out of cardboard? Absolutely.
Hell yeah, let's go.
I genuinely, I think that's probably one of my favorite pieces I've done. Because it's a smoke monster. I grew up my
Oh.
hair, put that into like light wispy twists, and then did like black makeup that went into my hairline, fading into my skin tone once I got past cheek level.
Do you have photos?
I do, I do.
Oh my gosh, you'll have to
Let
send me
me.
a photo afterwards because, like,
Hmm.
that sounds incredible.
I really enjoyed that. Making the cloak and stuff for it was surprisingly complicated. I learned how to dye fabric for that. Just
Ooh.
the skills we teach ourselves when we're like, I need to do this very very specific thing that I know I cannot buy. Uh,
Mm-hmm. No, that is completely fair. So this kind of segues into one of my first questions, my first official
mhm,
questions. Um, so you've mentioned that you do cosplay, and sewing, and also mini painting.
mhm,
So if we look at the grand timeline of Nathan,
mhm.
what comes first, TTRPGs, mini painting, or cosplay?
Oh gosh, in like my vast range of hobbies that I've had, I guess that would be cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. No, tell a lie. Tabletop RPGs first. In
Oh,
sixth form, one of my
ooh.
friends in that space. I do believe he's now. I've not caught up with him for a very long time, but I do believe he's a game designer in his own right these days. John Exton.
Oh,
We
that name
played
sounds familiar.
GURPS together, which is a wild game for that to be your first tabletop RPG. You familiar with GURPS?
Um, you know, I think I've definitely heard of it. I have heard of it.
Mm.
Yes.
So GURP stands for Generic Universal Role Playing System. It's designed to be, I think it is the most famous simulationist tabletop RPG.
Mm-hmm.
We would call stuff like Powered by the Apocalypse style games narrativist, where we are
Mm-hmm.
trying to tell a story together. We'll remove ourselves from the narrative to talk about plot beats and where things go.
Mm-hmm.
Simulationist is making rules that can have an environment that is believable, or they interact with each other in complicated, intricate ways beyond just how the game tells you it works. And GURPS is specifically designed to have as many books as you want. If you want rules for X, there's a book for it. So it's a really
Oh,
intense way to learn how to play a tabletop RPG. Some
yeah.
people still swear by it. I think it's no surprise that I moved into narrativist games after starting with simulationist.
Yeah, no, that is completely fair. And then from there, do we go to mini painting or do we go to
Yeah,
cosplay?
mini painting a little bit. Am I a liar? Did I mini paint first? Oh no. This is going back to teenagerdom, so you can tell that I'm now slightly old because it's like things I'm struggling to remember.
You don't look
Um,
like you're like past the age of 25, so you're good.
I'm a decade older than that, darling. But yes, in high school, the guy I had a crush on was in Warhammer Club, so I also started collecting and painting Warhammer so I could hang out with him more. Uh,
No!
yeah, yeah,
Oh my
yeah. It
gosh!
it didn't pan out. I played Eldar, who are like the wispy space elves, and it turns out that their gimmick is that they're successful in large numbers, which is not sensible when you are 15 or younger than that with a very limited budget. So
Oh
I lost
no.
all of the games that I played and didn't have much fun. And
Oh
he was
no.
straight, so I was like, "All right, fine." And throughout my life, I've had
Double
multiple
loss.
instances of picking up miniature painting because a group of friends did it, and then when that
Mhm.
was over, being like, I'm not miniature painting anymore, and then giving all of that away, and just losing all of my collection or what have you.
Oh my
Did that
goodness.
in uni as well, but now I think it's become one of my big hobbies. So it is my main hobby.
Oh,
Cosplay I
that's
did
good.
after moving up to Manchester about 9 years ago. My
Oh,
first
nice.
big cosplay, like not just a wardrobe cosplay because your other kids from sixth form are going, was Princess Rosalina. I commissioned the dress. I did not sew it myself.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
What a good. I had a crush on her as a teen. Something fierce.
she is an icon. She is an icon. She is the best Mario princess.
This is true.
Chats says GURPS is the most famous simulationist game. I will say GURPS is the incredible library. Oh yeah, it has so many books for all these different genres, and I can
Oh
see
yeah, I
that
should
being
check
really
the chat.
aspirational. In like, oh, you only ever need to learn one game, but I think I like the idea of a game being very good at a specific experience rather
Yeah.
than a game being like fine at doing everything. Personally, anyway.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that.
Mhm.
I get that. And then yes, so that's kind of like the big timeline. So,
Mhm.
um, I know that you do actual play, but when you're at home, if you're
Mm.
not if you're not the storyteller, the GM, do you
Mm.
like craft while you play?
No, actually. Well, there for a long period of time,
Hmm.
my main gaming was all digital.
Oh.
So a little bit before lockdown, but definitely lockdown and then
Hmm.
proceeding until like 2023, I would say. All of my games are online, and there was one very long form campaign that I was playing with friends in a system called Net Battlers, done by the amazing Will Yule. Which is like Mega Man Battle Network unofficial tabletop RPG. Genuinely one of the greatest games I've ever played.
Nice.
And during that time, because it was with Americans and would start maybe like 8 or 9 or 10 p.m., like 9 to 10 p.m., and then go till quite late. And to keep focus, because I think, ADHD was definitely having much more of an effect on my daily operations,
Hmm.
I would um, build miniatures or gunpla to keep my
Oh.
hands busy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still listening and engaged, but it's a way of keeping my focus while still being in that world. If I was in
Yes.
person, no, I don't even look at my phone when I am playing games in person with
How
other
do you
people.
stay that locked in?
Um, Genuinely because there are other people in the room to like act with, if that makes sense. They're
Mm.
giving an energy and I'm looking for that energy and being able to give it back in a way that doesn't have sort of happens with webcams and just doesn't happen at all on audio.
Yeah.
So that really kind of keeps me in as a player. Granted, now that I've said this, anybody who knows me, if you see me at a physical event and I'm looking at my phone, something has gone horribly wrong. Because it's usually
Oh.
a politeness measure for me to not look at my phone. And so
Mm-hmm.
if I am actually kind of like I'm so uninvolved in these proceedings, I can check my messages. Something has gone off the rails.
Oh no. Well, I mean, I guess that's good for your friends to know. But
Hmm.
also that you know what? That is completely fair. I'm one of those people. If I'm not the note taker, I need a fidget.
Sure.
Um,
Yes.
so like I've even done it in work meetings before where I've had like crochet in hand and then I just put it down to
Mm.
like
Hmm.
take notes because if I don't, then my brain is gonna wander to a place where we're gonna get 15 minutes in and I have no idea what's going on.
Sure. Gotcha. Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I think, especially for a work environment, having a fidget should be more accepted. I know that early on in my professional career, for those who do not know, I work in broadcasting. Um, uh, I would have long in person meetings, and I knew deep down that it would be rude for me to fidget. And it would be
mhm.
rude for me to get up and leave to do something else to clear my head. So what my body decided to do instead is go into like Windows screensaver. I would like doze off
Oh
focusing
yeah.
so hard without being able to say or do anything, my body will just have me fall asleep. It has gotten me into trouble before. I've technically been fired from
Oh
a job because of
no.
that. It was fine. Nobody wants to work in journalism. It was a good way to get out of it. But
That's fair. I'm looking because one thing that I used to do before I kind of got back into like crochet again
mhm.
is I used to doodle. So
Mm,
you can see, this is from 2022. Like I've got a little
mhm.
like flower and a duck, and I don't know what this is. This is just green. Um,
I mean, yeah, and it looks like you're writing important information down. So to be honest, you're getting away scot free.
yeah, like honestly, but I just think sometimes people need ways to keep them on track.
Yes.
And we shouldn't be judging because honestly, crafting and TTRPGs, I've what I found through doing this show is that they are like very closely linked.
Hmm.
And
They're
that a
both
lot of people do
artistic
it.
expression in their own way, right? You know,
Oh,
so I see it.
100%. We will get onto TTRPGs being art
Hmm.
at some point. Let me refer back to my questions.
For
Um,
sure.
I'm gonna go off the rails again.
Oh,
Um,
please do.
so uh,
Hmm.
you do a lot in the TTRPG industry because
Yes.
you do actual play, but not just like pre-recorded or streamed actual play. I've seen you do live actual play as
Hmm. On
well. So
this
you,
channel, in fact.
yeah. Um, so you do just like you do a range of actual play, and you also design games
Mhm.
as well. So I want to talk a little bit about like the kind of considerations
Mm.
when you're doing live actual play in front of an audience, like in person,
Mm.
like
Hmm.
versus when you're doing it like pre-recorded or even streamed, because I think those are three very different styles of actual play with
Yes.
some similar considerations, but also different ones.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So, like, Ultimately, I think what makes any form of actual play successful as a performer and obviously as a producer is being cognizant that it is for more people than just those who are at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this isn't calling out any particular production in particular because we don't do that, but like
Mm-hmm.
you can tell when there is a show where it is everybody's at the table is super familiar with each other and does not care about it being a listenable experience to externals,
Yeah.
because that side of the theater of it is not something they're considering, and they're living their best lives, but it's not it doesn't work very well, I don't think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So ultimately, regardless of what form, there is a part of what makes a good AP is being aware that it is being consumed in some shape or form. um, the only really different thing for pre-record, I guess, is that you have the ability to make it more like TV and think a little bit about the process of editing and being able to take stuff from the top if it's not coming out the first time. And that can be a big pressure lightener for some people. You know, the idea
Mm-hmm.
of playing live is so stressful. They're like, what if I tell a joke and it's bad? And then, you know, that's not a big deal, but it can be a big deal to folks. So the
Mm-hmm.
pre-record is great for making that really free. Live, it's just realizing that it's live and being in the moment, being present, and all that jazz, and enjoying the fact that it's something where if something isn't quite right to live, it's cool slash funny, and being able to let that go. Because if you can't
Mm.
let it go, it will eat you.
Yeah, that is fair. Now,
Mhm.
taking these different forms of consumption of actual play, the art
Mhm.
form, we're now going to switch over to your hobbies as an art form,
Yes. Mhm.
right? And a similar sort of question. When you're like painting your minis for like yourself and your home games versus like, maybe
Mm.
ones that you want to like gift to people or ones that are going to be
Mm.
seen,
Mhm.
what considerations, what similarities are there? What differences are there?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been through the process of trying to paint miniatures in a way that is brand,
Mm-hmm.
and we're sort of post watershed in the UK. That shit's hard.
Oh, you can swear on this show.
Sure,
That's
sure, 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 sure,
that's
sure, sure.
okay. Like go for it,
I try
fam.
not to, but in this instance, it's pointed. That shit's hard. In the same way that if you want to be like, I want to be a makeup YouTuber, that's like that's a difficult road because you are competing against people who have not just skill but technology and branding that puts them in a position to
Mm,
people who get sponsorships that can receive product for free already puts them in a position to allow the content mill that is required for professional makeup
yeah.
YouTubing and also professional miniature painting. And the people who have decided to take a chance on me and give me product to go and paint, big ups to the Marvel Crisis Protocol people.
Oh, nice.
Who supported me pretty early on, and all the people who do the cyberpunk red miniatures. They also kind of were like, this guy is somebody who isn't known for his miniature content but is a good painter. We'll send him some stuff. And it was
Oh,
nice
love
doing those
that.
small gigs, but like, yeah, trying to make it a regular turnover, finishing minis at a rate for Instagram's needs is much more backbreaking than it is to put on shows, I think. It is
Yeah.
a lot more effort, I think, to finish minis to a good standard compared to putting on a good show, at least for me and where my head's at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think what it's done is that it has really refined my approach to finishing stuff. Uh, Painting miniatures is fun, so I don't mind when it takes time, but I'm more motivated when it's for something. And when it's
Yeah.
for something, I have a time limit. So it balances out the I'm enjoying the process of sitting down and painting, but also I know this can't take forever and I don't want it to take forever. So I'm not going to get into some of the fussy, fiddly stages or work on perfect blended gradients. hiding
Yeah.
every like professional stuff you can see on Instagram. It's zoomed in 3 times and you can't see it, like 3 times zoom, and you can't see a single brushstroke. And good for them. I'm not about that life. I can't paint that well. I can't paint that well, and if I tried, I would make myself really sad. So,
That's so valid. That is
so
so
I'm more than
valid.
happy to be at the state that I'm at, where I'm like, I can paint quite competently. Where if I show it to my friends, they're like, Nathan, that's so cool. And I'm like, I'm glad that you think it's cool, and I'm glad that you think that the little guy I painted for you fits what you dreamed the character would be like.
Oh,
Um,
that's lovely.
internally, there's a bunch of flaws when I look at it, but that's okay. You don't need to know my insecurities like that.
Mm-hmm. No, that is completely fair. So when you when you're like painting minis,
Mhm,
and when you are like planning a story, whether it's your personal character arc or you're GMing for actual
mhm,
play, and also when you're designing games,
mhm.
do you see any common threads in the way that you approach each of these three different art forms?
Oh, it's all super gay, darling. It's so gay. It's
Yes.
so gay. All of it. All of it is so queer.
Yes.
I mean, yes, it is my big motivator in terms of games writing, and this will all tie in to a thing I'm working on. So, a very, very good question for you to ask me.
Ooh.
Like I started writing tabletop RPGs after doing actual play podcasts myself,
Mm-hmm.
and really getting into the idea that games are supposed to run quickly because they need to run quickly for air, right?
Yeah.
And so when I started designing games for myself and for others, they also valued a degree of speed and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of so I'm reaching across over paint rack over to one side.
You're good.
A degree of speed in terms of hitting narrative arcs. So I design games that also run at a clip. If you've watched Heartbeats and Perfect Sync on the channel, you will know the
Mm-hmm.
season 2 of that is very imminent, by the by.
Yes.
Yeah. But also very recently, I have had this like design theme of like finding community and then supporting that community through whatever means necessary. In my
Mm-hmm.
games, a lot of my games have that as an aspect because it's just, in addition to stories about art, stories about finding community and maintaining communities is just something that happens in all of
Mm-hmm.
my work as of late. And I don't mind that being my brand, really. Um, when it comes to miniatures, as a related note, I you've probably seen just by going to like local game stores and so on and so forth that there are like 3 genres of miniature game. There is I am in space and grim and sad. I am in high fantasy and probably grim and sad. Or this is a historical reenactment thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which is,
the
grim and sad. So
yeah, I don't get why people want to go and do simulations of World War II for so many reasons, but it's a whole thing.
can I drop
Uh,
some deep Taylor lore real quick?
go for it. Yes.
So before I even knew what tabletop gaming was, my stepdad
Mhm,
painted minis for historical battle reenactments.
mhm, mhm,
Right. So I started painting minis before I even knew how to like knit and crochet, let alone had touched a TTRPG.
mhm.
Um, but I was the only one who would play with him.
Oh,
Um,
sure. Yes.
like because it's just like, okay, if I do this thing with him, I don't have to watch Lord of the Rings, which I know is sacrilege, but
Ha!
also I was
No, that's
8.
fine. Valid, valid.
um, you know, so like technically I got my tabletop start in like historical wargaming. And
Mhm.
we would get told off because like he would let us paint minis, but if they weren't the right colors from his history textbooks, then
Yep.
we got told off, and we'd have
Mhm.
to do it again. So
Mhm.
I don't think I've said that on air before, but you just kind of triggered a deep
The sense
memory.
memory. Nice, nice. Yes. So, it's a very and the people who are into it are very into it, and I respect
Mhm.
that, but it's
Yes.
it's its own thing. Um but it means that when everything is so grim and sad and grimy,
Mhm.
even in their creative endeavors, it's also grim and sad and grimy. The indie scene a couple of years ago kicked into a game called Turnip 28, which is like weird fantasy Napoleonic fiction, where
Okay.
it is, oh, you can use your bits box of historical reenactment minis and then give them a slimy vegetable theme. And I'm like, why does it have to be slimy? Relatively recently, the big hotness is Trench Crusade, which is World
Mhm.
War One, a weird World War One with demons and everything is slimy and sad. And I'm like, this is clearly a genre, but it is so unfashionable. It's actively, and I don't
Yeah.
think they would be mad to me to say this, it's actively ugly.
Okay, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So the thing that really motivates me in my painting is trying to paint things in big, bold, graphic colors, painting
Yes.
miniatures that have a sense of fashion, and not just, oh, they're in a dress, but oh, they are in a dress that clearly the person who drew this knows what real world fashion looks like and is inspired by that.
Mhm.
Modern era miniatures that aren't just in jeans and a t-shirt because people wear more things than just jeans and a t-shirt. Just because you, the designer, only wear that does not mean uh, so on and so forth. Which has been a bit of an uphill struggle in finding stuff that fits that vibe, but you know, we move.
Mhm.
And so my recent like big gaming project was I want to make the first gay war game. I want to make a war game that
Let's
really
go.
values the idea of uh, fashion and thinking about what your characters are wearing, and
Mm.
all of the characters in your little crew all have a sense of fashion that's independent but unified. And so I started working on a game called City of Espers, which I would best describe as X-Men meets Splatoon in terms of,
Ooh.
you know, it's a world where people have awoken to psychic power. And if you know anything about the modern world, where people will persecute over very insignificant differences, the
Mhm.
idea of psychics existing in the world has them quite rapidly marginalized. So they've all moved, or a lot of people are emigrating to Zena City, a city that welcomes psychics. They've left their previous families to find a newfound family of other psychic people and have formed communities called houses, like ballroom houses.
Ooh.
And then, you know, it's all about the playing of the game is them getting into what I described as Esper battles, because obviously when you have psychic powers you still want to use them, but they are
Of course.
friendly sporting matches rather than anything to the death. It's quite anime, quite
Oh.
fluffy. So I got to
Okay.
writing this system that's all like it's split in half. Half of the rules are like a tabletop RPG, and then the other half of the rules, which uses the same like resolution mechanics, are like a full war game measuring all that kind of stuff, playing on the 3x3 foot board. And I wrote this game for like a year and started pitching it to publishers because it's going to be big enough to be an actual book rather than like the 32-page zines that I normally write.
Yeah.
Fraught road to get yourself formally published by somebody else, by the by. There's a
Yes.
reason why lots of indies do Kickstarter, but I'm like, I can't have
Have
that many books in my house.
it's just
How am I
too
going to ship that
much.
overseas? You should know.
Uh, I I actually didn't do any of the shipping. So
Mm,
we had it printed. I worked with my friend Porner in India, and
hmm.
so she had it printed at her local shop. So we were supporting like a local independent business.
Hmm.
And the post office hated her by
Hmm.
the end
Hmm.
of the process. But it was actually cheaper for us to not only print but also ship, just using like the standard like national mail service in India than it would
Hmm.
have been to do it from the UK.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and
No,
so
exactly.
that's what we did. Um,
So yeah, trying
and
to
it was
avoid that
intense.
kind of situation. I shopped it to a couple of different places, and last week, to fast forward through, I have formally signed it with 3 Sail Studios to
Yes,
Studio Mapamundi. So this book will be real. Yes, yes. Um, it's
Oh my
changed a little bit
gosh.
since that original pitch. It's no
Mhm.
longer two different games.
Yeah.
Ultimately, in the process of shipping it to publishers and kind of like refining that,
Mhm.
it was resolved that it kind of reads like a jack of all trades, master of none to have two very different tones of a game be in the same book. I didn't want to release two
Mhm.
books because that felt
No, that's fair.
scummy, you know?
That's
So
fair.
this has now been worked, so it's just one book, but it still has that tactical heart. And ultimately, when the thing that I was really insistent in it keeping, um, action sequences in the game use like a 3x3 grid of zones. So
Ooh.
you still, excuse me, you're still encouraged to have a token of your character because their placement in action scenes is important. So
Mhm.
even though it's not a miniature war game, you as a table all making miniatures together, and that ritual, that witchcraft of you creating a little totem for yourself and kind
Mhm.
of putting a bit of your soul into making this beautiful thing alongside all of your friends is a piece of magic that I think everybody should experience. So I was really, really keen to have that in the game. So uh
That's absolutely wonderful. And the fact that you kind of call like making like that token through a character like a ritual.
mhm,
So one of the things that I think about a lot recently
mm,
is how art has kind of become a very individualistic task. Because
okay,
when
yeah.
we think about it, like if we think back to our ancestors, they were like, okay, maybe it isn't like art, but weaving baskets together,
Oh
like
sure, yes.
like they were creating together. Like writers used to go away on retreats and like write poetry all in the same place together,
Mhm,
you
mhm, I
know
get you. Mhm.
and we tell stories together in TTRPGs, and that is its own art form. But also, you can even see TTRPGs are going a very individualistic way because you can see the rise of
The
solo
rise of
gaming.
solo RPGs, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um. So I personally, I Taylor, absolutely love this. I like that you have included into the game. Like, no, we're going to sit down and we're going to like create representations of our characters together. Like that to
Specific,
me is
yes. Mhm.
very that is wonderful and important because even like when you play games a lot of the time, like especially for home games, you all go away and you make your characters separately and then you throw
Mm,
them together
mhm.
and then you have like that first few sessions of like creating as you
Feeling
all
each other
adapt
out, yeah.
your
Mhm.
characters so that way they actually fit the vibe,
Mhm.
you know. So
Yes,
yeah, that's wonderful, that's absolutely
mm.
fantastic.
Yeah, no, no, no. Everybody kind of making stuff in harmony together like that is a thing I value, even in like narrative games of being able to
Yes.
build characters side by side.
Hmm.
City Vespers in particular. Sorry to use this as a promotional opportunity for a
No,
game
you
that's
should
not quite
promote
out
your stuff on this
yet.
show. You should
Thank
promote your
you.
stuff on this show. That's part of the reason you're here.
For sure, for sure.
Chill out, chill out.
One of the things about it that is one of the reasons why Three Sales and George of Three Sales Studios really likes is that hey, the concept of when a bunch of psychics who all have a unified vision go in one place and harmonize like that, that also has the space around them also psychically resonate. So houses that
Hmm.
go through a particularly big narrative moment will awaken to having turf, the land around them, the city streets, the neighborhood in which they reside also have psychic resonance, which as that develops, the streets itself, the city itself gains a personality. And it's one of the devices that they can hear about what's happening in their neighborhood. If there's something wrong in the area, then the turf feels sickly. When they harmonize with the turf, the streets can change in their image, that kind of thing. So, because this is a
That's
game.
cool.
Thank you. I really love it as an idea. In testing, initially I didn't have part of like the session zero house building include turf,
Hmm.
but in current build there's a handful of questions that I'm just gonna summon, so like you get a flavor for what I mean.
We get
Um,
a preview. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. I will do a dramatic reading preview of the turf part of it because I think it is one of the things that's really enticing. And just FYI, in the process, one of the things that's going to be obviously happening as part of this is that there will be a demo like Ashcan rules available.
Oh,
Uh, Not for a while. Approaching the end
mhm.
of the year, it's likely to be available. The turf
Yeah.
rules are not going to be in the preview build, just so there is a little bit of source for you to discover down the line. So you get to hear about something that you might not get until a little later.
Oh,
So
wow.
here's the questions that you would answer as a table when
Mhm,
talking about the city streets you have a bond with.
mhm.
Houses that establish a harmony between themselves and their local area will psychically awaken the city itself, creating turf. While houses have a diverse range of goals and measure of success, some argue a deep connection with the local turf is a true measure of a house's strength. Newly formed houses don't start with it and must forge that connection as a consequence of their exploits. When creating turf for a house, answer the following as a table. What emotionally strong moment caused the turf to awaken to the house? What building or landmark in the neighborhood does the turf radiate from? What sensory
Oh,
experience does an Esper feel when the turf reaches out to them? What action or emotion from residents does the turf enjoy? Who outside of the house does the turf also resonate with? What worry or conflict from the community echoes through the turf? When the turf influences reality, how do the streets change? And finally, what is the turf's true name? Uh,
oh, I love a good true name, first of all.
mm-hmm.
Oh,
All of
like,
these things of trying to world build through collaborative kind of talk.
I
And
love that
that has
kind of
been so
stuff.
effective at getting everybody at the table to
Yeah,
like really lock into a vibe together. When they're
yeah.
talking about how their neighborhood resonates with them, then
Mhm.
they're all kind of like, yeah. It's been really, really effective at getting players to also think about how they operate as a community. I'm so excited
I
for
love
it to be wider played. Like you have no idea.
I I can only imagine. I cannot wait to get my hands on this game.
Mhm,
Because this sounds like exactly my vibe. Like, and even as you ask those questions, I immediately like they were so evocative. Like immediately having ideas on what this could be,
mhm,
like, and how this could present. I love that. And I love, like, I mean, it's very clear that I am a very strong community person. For people who don't know,
mhm,
I do a lot of diversity and inclusion events at conventions in the UK because I want to support my community and help my community.
mhm,
And games made by members of that community about community are something that I am very invested in. So
mhm.
that is absolutely amazing. Congratulations on getting a publisher. Like, I'm a big fan of Three Cell Studios. They really are an incredible, like, up and coming powerhouse. So
Mapamundi really
congratulations.
popped off, so I'm
It's
so
so.
glad that people
I've
are.
played Mappa Mundi and I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it, but I absolutely loved it.
Mhm.
Like I thought it was so good and fun and interesting. Especially like the way that it's like not invasive.
Yes,
And
yes.
that was what I really enjoyed about it. It's just like, oh, we found this big like axolotl type creature. It's a game that you can watch here on Euphoria. That is the game that I am referring
Yeah.
to. So go to our YouTube page and have a look for Mappa Mundi. Um, but like seeing this thing and knowing I didn't have to fight it, like I
Mhm,
could just observe, fantastic, phenomenal. 10 out of 10. Um, this is very funny because I do have a question that is if you could had to make like an arts and crafts themed TTRPG game or show, what
mhm.
system would it use? But I feel like in the creation of City of Espers, you've already kind of done that a little bit. That
Ye
was like very strongly kind of interlinked.
Yeah, so many of my games, in addition to being about queerness and community, are also about art. When you work in the arts, as my entire career, that
Mm,
reflects so much in
yeah.
the idea, like music in particular. I really connect with people like Shinichiro Watanabe, who directed like Samurai Champloo and Cowboy
Mm-hmm.
Bebop. All of his works are usually very strongly inspired by a particular genre of music,
Mm-hmm.
and it really carries not just in its soundtrack but also in the stories it tells and the cast of characters that are in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also something I enjoy also reflecting in the stuff that I do. So there's always going to be something about making art of some kind in the games that I play. I think that's probably one of my like signature details. You know, in the same way that if you
Yeah.
like showed a bunch of people like some paintings and you hid who made them, but like when you know a particular artist's tells, you're like, oh, I know
Yes.
who did that.
Yes.
You can tell
And
a Nathan Blades game by how queer and funky it is in equal measure. Or at least I like to think so.
that's amazing. So so your games when you design them
Mhm,
tend to have like a kind of piece of like making art as part of that.
mhm,
Um, if we think about like the practicalities of making art, do any have like whether it's for a home game or like for actual play, have any of
mhm.
your like TTRPG characters been like artists, crafters, that kind of thing?
Yes, sometimes. Um, how to put this? I try to avoid the circumstance. Like it's really nice in like a 5e game where somebody's a bard and they also know how to play an instrument and they can play a little ditty while their
Mm,
bard can do also. And you know, these are stories we are telling, and we are not those people in the stories, so you don't need to kind of have that kind of connection in that
mm-hmm,
kind of way. But uh a theme that I will go to for different groups, if you do it too many times in the same group, they know. But like,
mm-hmm.
yeah, having a character who is a musician, if there's like a list of classes and there is something that's bard adjacent, I will take it.
Nice.
Even if they're not necessarily musician, the idea of like a D&D bard of calligraphy, I think is really cool as a
Yeah,
concept, you
I love that idea. I've wanted to be a journalist who's a bard.
know.
Or like like somebody who like records history, like not quite a historian, but somebody who like records things as they're happening for
Hmm.
posterity.
Hmm.
And like you shout the inspiration of do better, do something cooler, so that way the
You not
historical
want a
reflection.
legacy? Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
exactly, that kind of thing. That is something that
Hmm.
I've wanted to play for a very long time. So 10 on the idea. Yes,
Mhm.
I agree.
You'll really dig the media class from Cyberpunk, who are literally journalists, alongside the Rocker Boy, who are literally rock stars. There are a surprising number of charisma focused classes in Cyberpunk, considering how
Nice.
much combat focused that game is. But yeah, yeah, yeah. Those particular premises, I definitely enjoy. I enjoy detectives a lot as well. I think a lot. I really like
Hmm.
playing in and writing mystery games and stuff. That doesn't come up in my work as much because that's a
Yeah.
bit polarizing, right? I don't think there are so many people who are in the market to play, excuse me, a driven mystery game. I'm yet to release one.
Hmm. That's fair.
There was one. I designed the basics of like a buddy cop, an urban fantasy buddy cop tabletop RPG called Gemini City.
Oh.
Um, this was around 2019, and it was in alpha. You know, it was
Hmm.
going places. I was doing some testing, and then a bunch of like there was a big wave of American police brutality going on during that particular time
Yeah,
period, and then it
yeah.
no longer felt like something that I could. To put a business hat on, market to my primary audience. Nobody was in the, even though I really like detective fiction, which
Yeah.
was invented specifically to be counter to police, because during the period of time where detective fiction kind of hit its stride, cops were so corrupt, nobody wanted to have stories where they were the heroes, but they still
Mm.
wanted stories about people solving crime and saving the day.
Yes.
So that's why a lot of noir has corrupt cops and private eyes, not people who work for the police force.
I didn't know
Um,
that.
mhm.
Oh, wow. I've learned
It
something
means
new
that
today.
whenever I play a detective in something, I have to specifically remind a table, if they don't know me, being a detective is not the same thing as being a cop. If you call my character a cop, they will be upset with you. I will be upset with you.
That is so valid. Um,
Joking, but like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes I've had to kind of gently remind, I understand what you're saying here and making a Disco Elysium reference, but I must remind you. I
no,
must remind you. Also, comparing anybody to Harris Dubois, the train wreck that man is rarely going to come across as a compliment.
yeah, yeah.
A delightful man, not to be imitated by any stretch of the imagination.
And speaking of delightful people who are actually genuinely delightful, unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Ah,
Like this has gone
ah.
by so fast. I have had a wonderful time chatting with you. So,
Mm-hmm.
Nathan, a true and genuine delight. Where can people find you on the internet?
Of course, to give a bit of a rundown of where I can be found, if you want to find me online, then you can access my games at theneoncaster.itch.io, available for not very much money. If you've been listening to this kind of discussion of City of Espers and you think, ooh, that's funky, the alpha rules of the wargame version of that are
Ooh,
actually available on itch.io.
nice.
So the dream of that is still technically alive, even if the official release is going to be a full RPG. If you'd like to go and hear me, my dulcet tones in an RPG performance, well, you can be on this channel right here because there will be the return of season 2 of London's Pulse, run in Heartbeats in Perfect Sync, one of my games, with a fabulous cast of POC performers. That'll be going on throughout all of June, pretty much. So you can listen to that there, or you can listen to me as the voice of Captain Oramar Vale on Campaign Skyjacks. If you'd like to meet me in person, I will be at UK Games Expo at time of recording next week on Friday and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I will be talking or just generally be around at the big social event that Taylor has spent so much time and energy organizing. So if you have any questions about industry or performance, I am available to answer any of those questions. And I will also be at Gen Con at the end of July, start of August, for a variety of things, both the Skyjacks live show and for the official global reveal of a new pre-recorded actual play called Decolonized Dungeon. I will tell you no
Oh,
more than that. But if you think that
I'm
a
gonna have to be
show
there.
called Decolonized Dungeon is your jam, then you need to go all the way over to Gen Con and come to that
I'll
global
do it.
reveal panel.
You
Also,
know
a mod
what?
should probably throw that little ad into the sea. Goodbye,
Uh,
bots.
oh, hang on. How I am a mod. I don't know how to do this.
I think if you go and click on the name in chat, you have the option to ban them, and it should remove the text as well.
Uh, ban. Yes.
Yeah, get out of here.
We did it! Get gone! And
And
on that note of getting gone, my name is Taylor Navarro. I use she, her pronouns. You can find me here on Euphoria doing Spinning the Yarn every other Saturday. You can find me in various actual plays. I'm around. I do game design. I stream over on moonbeam.stream where I am a member of staff. So,
mm,
I'm actually doing another crafty chat show tomorrow night over on Moonbeam. This will not be an
ooh,
Euphoria one, but I am speaking to my friend and owner of the Public Realm for Arts and Crafts, Sunbear, and I will be doing a knitting natter, which is exactly like this, except there's just no TTRPGs involved. So make sure that you follow me on socials at Taylor Ann and X on Blue Sky. So that way you know when we're going live. So that way you can
mm,
come and join us and do some more crafting this weekend. I would once again like to thank our sponsor, Brambleheart Games, who are creating Fate Earth. That is crowdfunding now. So I'm going to throw the little link in the chat. You can also find it down below. Please do go and check that out. And thank you so much for sponsoring us, Brambleheart Games.
go
Uh,
support him.
go support them. That's it. That's it from
That's
us.
it.
You know, Oh, last thing, follow Euphoria on socials to find out what else we've got coming out, like Heartbeats in Sync Season 2. And also on our socials, we have where the team are going to be at UK Games Expo because the entire Euphoria team, all four of us, are coming to UKGE. And we are having an Euphoria meetup on Friday at a time that I can't remember, but it's on the graphic. So go follow our socials and find out when that is. Um, Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And that is it from us.
We'll
So
see you
I
later.
see you later. Bye.